the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, and welcome to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. So today I am with another MS warrior. I'm kind of partial to the MS thing, but I am here with Trina. Trina is from the United States. She is down in the beautiful state of Tennessee. How are you doing, Trina?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So you have multiple sclerosis, just like myself. But let me ask you, first let me ask you when you got diagnosed, and then kind of tell me like what was your life before diagnosis and how you got diagnosed and what led up to your diagnosis.
Okay. When I was a junior in high school, I lost the vision in my left eye for a month.
Okay. So you're like 17 at the time.
Yeah, I'm 17. And my vision came back. And they even told me not to drive until because it wasn't safe to drive with that vision issue. But also just going back a little bit further, my mom's sister had multiple sclerosis and had passed. Well, she passed when I was a senior in high school. So she was very, very sick. She was in a nursing home at the time. But MS was always in the back of my mind, because I saw everything she struggled with. So the loss of my vision made me scared already that I had MS. So I went to the eye doctor and told them, to ask them if they could just look at my optic nerve to see if there was any damage, if they thought anything. And he said I was fine. Yeah. So then I continued to kind of have some issues with my left eye, just like with clarity, and maybe didn't really see brightness. But
yeah.
And I did go to the same guy again, and he said my optic nerve was healthy and I was fine. Then I had my first daughter in 2001, which would be, I was a sophomore, I guess, in college. So that would be like 4 years later. And after I gave birth to her, my legs went numb from my knees down. And we thought it was maybe an epidural issue or something, but what I really knew it was MS at that point, but I honestly could not deal with it. I had a baby, and I was even recommended to go to a neurologist, and I just couldn't. So probably and I never really got the feeling back in my legs.
Okay.
We'll say.
And you never had it, and you still aren't diagnosed.
No,
so you're still going around.
Yes, I'm not having trouble walking. No, it's just like a tingling in my legs. Yeah, okay. I'm still totally normal. I'm not diagnosed at all. And then when my daughter was in kindergarten, so that would be 5 years later, I started having difficulty walking. Like, people started asking me, are you out drunk? That kind of walking. like,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
when I got really hot. And I kind
Yeah.
of knew, and I see that whole time I knew I had MS. I knew it, but at that time I was like, I'm going to have to. But I was just in denial. And denial is
Yeah.
such a powerful thing.
I
And
think a lot of people are in. I think a lot of people are in denial when they're first going through those symptoms.
yes, and it's so powerful. But
Yeah.
and of course, it would have benefited me to have gotten diagnosed earlier. But I mean, we can't go back. So I went
Right.
to the just a general practice doctor, and I told him I had MS, multiple sclerosis, and he said, "No, you don't. You're too nice to have that." And I was like,
You're too
"No,
nice. Okay.
yeah, that's why I guess he had known someone or some people. He just says that everyone in his mind, everyone that had MS was not a nice person. I don't know, but that's what he told me anyway. So
That's interesting.
but I was like, no, I do. Just give me an MRI, and you'll see. And he did give me the MRI, and it was really bad. It came back with too many lesions to count on my brain,
Yeah.
which I don't really understand that, because, I mean, how high can these people count? I don't know. I don't know at what point they just don't count. I don't know. But anyway, it just came back to me to count. So the neurologist didn't make me do the lumbar puncture or anything other test. He said, at your age, with this many lesions, you've got MS. And I mean, it didn't even faze me or anything, because I knew. I mean, I knew I had it, so it wasn't like
it's almost kind of a relief
yes,
when you get told that.
yeah.
You know? And I can't imagine, like, you went through it a lot longer, like the diagnosis time period, than I did. I went 10 months. I mean, you went years. But it was like after that 10 months and I finally got that word, you have MS, told to me, it was like, thank God. Okay, finally, I finally get an answer.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And he could not believe, like, my demeanor, like that it didn't stress me at all. Like, it almost just made me happy, you know?
Yeah.
Because I guess
So
they dread having to tell people, but it was nothing to tell me. No, that was from my first symptom was 98, and I was diagnosed in 2007. So that was 9 years.
That's just and I've talked to so many people that, I always thought that 10 months was a long time. And when I hear other people's stories and I hear, 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, I'm just like, I could not imagine going through my 10 months for 12 years. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't even imagine that. I don't know how people can go through their life that long without getting an answer. That's just so frustrating to me.
But in their defense, it was my fault because I did not want to deal with it. So,
yeah,
I mean, I couldn't deal with it. So I just ignored it. And also with MS, like, symptoms come and they go. So you forget about it, until something else comes up. I mean, you just think, well, maybe that was something else.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. So when you did get diagnosed, what did they start treating you with a DMT right away?
Yes,
I mean,
immediately.
Take us through.
Immediately put me on Copaxon.
Okay.
How
did you react to that med?
Well, it's a shot you do every single day. So, I mean, it's a lot. That's definitely kind of given me some trauma with the shots, because it's a shot every day. It's a lot. I mean, that's a lot to go through. I mean, it's a painful shot. I mean, it's not awful, but I mean,
that's the
give yourself
subcutaneous.
a shot subcutaneous. So it feels like a bee sting every day. It's great. I mean,
yeah.
And then I started to decline, so they moved me to a different. Well, and new drugs come out. Well, Tysabri had just gotten FDA approval, and
Okay.
I was starting to decline. I'm having more mobility issues, and balance issues. I think my balance was a big deal. And so I went on to Tysabri. I was on Copaxon for 3 years, and I went on to Tysabri.
How'd you do with Tysabri? I was on that for a couple of years. I didn't like it.
Okay, well, I was okay. I forgot one thing. In between the Copaxon, I went on Rebif, and I don't know if you know what that is, but
yeah.
I mean, Rebif is a shot you give yourself, I think, 3 times a week, but you're putting 200 different viruses in your body, and so your immune system has to attack all those so it doesn't attack your nervous system. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's the best way they can treat this disease. But anyway, I mean, that drug really wiped me out. I couldn't, and I was on a cane. I left that out. So during that time, and I was only on Rebif for 3 months because I could not handle that drug. So I was on a cane.
Okay.
Then we went to Tysabri, and so my mobility was very affected. But after being on Tysabri for 6 months, I got off the cane. I was walking normal and wonderful, and I was back to my old self for 5 years. So Tysabri really helped me. It worked wonderful for me. But I also started taking Ampyra. 6 months.
Okay, I take that now.
Yeah, I started that 6 months after. I started that about the time I got off the cane. So I don't know if it was the Ampyra or the Tysabri that helped me so much, honestly.
It could be a combination of both, because my treatment was, I did the 2-year Mavenclad treatment.
Yeah.
And I finished my 2nd year this past summer, and I'm also on Ampyra, just kind of to go with Mavenclad.
Yeah.
And I've definitely seen an improvement with my leg strength. So yes. I honestly don't know if it's the Mavenclad or the Ampyra, but my neurologist, he loves Ampyra. He said he's gotten a lot of good results with a lot of his patients with Ampyra.
I do too. I've been on it since 2011. And I can tell if I've missed it, I'm weaker. Ampyra is a great drug.
Yeah, I like it too. I don't really have any kind of side effects from it or anything. It's real easy to take. I take it twice, once in the morning, once in the evening. So before you got diagnosed, were you working? What was your life like? Even after diagnosis, were you still able to work, or were you a stay-at-home mom with the kids?
Well, what I did was I worked for H&R Block doing taxes in the winter. That's just 4 months in the winter. So then I would have the summers off when they were off.
Okay.
So,
okay.
That's what I've always did. I have an associate's degree in accounting. And that's what I still do. So I've progressed to, last year was the first year I did it totally from home. And this year, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it from the office or home. They want me to come 1 day a week kind of thing. So I might do a hybrid.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you have an employer that's kind of working with you, because I've heard so many horror stories with people getting this disease and they ended up losing their job because of it.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, I was working with them before. I mean, when I found out, I immediately told them, and they have been.
How did they react to that? How did they react to that when you told them?
Well, it was more just like heartbroken for me, like concerned about me, never like worried about my ability to do my job. And I've did my job using a cane, using a walker. I did my job just from a wheelchair, sitting there doing taxes. They've gotten a printer at my desk because I can't get up and go to the printer. They've accommodated. They did everything that I need always. No complaints at all.
That is so awesome that they actually had an understanding and let you continue to work with them, because like I said, I've heard so many horror stories. So let me ask you this. I know that a lot of people complain about cognitive function failures with MS. You're working with numbers, accounting. It doesn't sound like the MS has affected your cognitive that much, or has it a little bit and you just kind of figured out how to fight it, or how does that work?
I don't want to say this, but I don't think it has at all. I don't think cognitively, and I have been tested, and my memory has been tested. And I did a research study, so they constantly test your memory and your cognitive, and I test fine. Like my memory tests higher, she said, than a lot of normal people. But I think doing taxes helps me, and I do Sudoku puzzles every day. I'm
sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but just when you said you do the jigsaw puzzles just to keep your brain moving, right?
Yes.
So I started doing stuff like that too, because I'm like in the same boat as you. My cognitive isn't terrible. And I've talked to a lot of MS people that have been diagnosed with MS, and like their brain function, like cognitively, is just terrible. And I do think that working your brain hard, whether it's, with numbers or just reading or trying to do like Sudoku puzzles or something, just keep on using your brain. I think that helps so much, because I've been doing that for like the last 15 years. I play this one golf game on my phone, but it sounds so silly, but you have to concentrate so hard to play this game. And I think it helps my mind. So it's just like little tricks like that. I don't know if there's any scientific evidence in it. I have no idea. But I think that, just really exercising your brain really helps fight the cognitive issues with this disease.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. Definitely. It's something that we have to fight constantly in so many different ways.
So,
physically and mentally and emotionally.
Yep. So let me ask you this, I know that a lot of people have issues with this. What about your relationships after you got diagnosed, and I'm not talking just intimate relationships. I'm talking just family, friends. How was the acceptance of your diagnosis with everybody that was around you, your circle?
Well, of course, my family had all been so greatly affected by this disease already.
Yeah.
We had
lost in your family.
Yeah, my mom had lost a sister. So, of course, it was devastating, but everyone's always been nothing but very, very supportive. My daughters are amazing. They're very, very supportive. I did have a husband leave me in 2017. So,
and was obviously he's not going to admit that it was the MS, but yeah.
That was a lot for him to deal with. It was a lot for him to deal with, and I don't think he was. He wasn't strong enough. I don't know.
No, I get it. And it is a lot, because when even though you say for better or for worse when you get married, mean, when you're both going into the relationship and you're both atypical, and somebody gets a chronic disease, I mean, it's a big thing on their plate too, and some people just can't handle that, unfortunately.
And I know it was also frustrating that you can't really do anything to really help either, as you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Oh, yeah.
So
I totally
he's
understand.
one who hasn't been very supportive otherwise. Friends and coworkers and family, they're all amazing.
So if you were going to tell somebody that was, just trying to figure this thing out, like they got all these symptoms going on, what would your I guess advice be to them as far as trying to get answers to the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis?
Well, early diagnosis is so important, but I also know at the same time you can't always just walk into a doctor and tell them that you have to have an MRI and they say, okay, I'll give you one. You have to,
Right.
I mean, that isn't
a lot of times
for everyone. Yeah. So,
a lot of times there's a process.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I would fight for diagnosis. And I know the symptoms are just so tricky sometimes, and they can write it off as something else so easily, and you just have to keep pushing for your diagnosis so you can get on
a DMT.
DMT as fast as you can.
Yeah. How is the diagnosis and living with this disease affected your mental health?
I think it's made me stronger mentally, for sure. Because let me think about it for a second. You have to, it's so much coming at you all the time. And there's so much grief for, the life that you've lost, the body you've lost. You can't do so many things. There's so much you have to mentally deal with that I think you have to become so much mentally stronger or you just break, So, I think I've learned coping mechanisms and stuff that normal people don't even have to deal with, but I think it has made me mentally stronger.
Yeah. So I know for me myself, I like the mental part to me has been so hard. I've dealt with the physical part, like losing the ability to walk, in a normal way, having to use a rollator, having to use a wheelchair. I've dealt with all of that. But the mental part has been my hardest part. And I've actually been diagnosed, severely depressed, and I got put on medication, which definitely helped me. And that's not an uncommon thing too. With this diagnosis, of course, you get multiple sclerosis, you're going to be depressed. It's a debilitating disease. It's going to affect your mental health. But you definitely have to take care of your mental health, or this disease is going to destroy you. In my opinion, that's the way I've always kind of.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think? Yeah. But, and I totally agree with you also that being diagnosed with this drug or this disease has made me more aware of everything that's going around me, and has mentally, like, I accept things a lot better now, 27 years later. I didn't accept them that well the first 10 years, but now, like after 27 years, it's like, you know what? Okay, I can deal with that. It's like made me mentally stronger. And also being on the mental health medication helps too, but it has made me stronger. I understand what you're saying there, but it is a hard drag on your mental health having this disease.
Yes. Well, yeah. And even think about what you have to do to make your muscles stronger. You have to work hard to make muscles stronger. To become mentally stronger is a lot of work. And to learn to accept things, that's a lot of work you have to do. And And also just depression in and of itself can be a symptom
Sure.
of multiple sclerosis. So, I mean, depression from having the disease and also just by having the disease, that can make you, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot to put on a person mentally. It is a whole lot.
Yeah.
And we just have to, I mean, you just have to take it and deal with it. And,
Yep. And make the best out of it.
make the best out. Focus on the positive is the only thing you can do. Don't dwell on the negative. There's so much negative. It's so easy to think about that.
Yeah. I
find something in your day to be excited about every day.
Yep.
Do something, treat yourself to anything.
Yeah. I know that
Milkshake.
I use being outside as my coping mechanism a lot.
Yeah.
I can't do it a whole lot in the wintertime because, where I'm at in Ohio, we get snow, and I hate being out in the snow now. But the summertime, that's my coping skill or my coping mechanism. I love being outside. I love being by the lake. I love being, just outside. It just, that is my getaway from the multiple sclerosis, just being outside. And, and I had to find that too. There's so many little tools that you're gonna customize to your own body and what makes you feel good and what doesn't make you feel good, and you avoid the things that doesn't make you feel good, and you keep on doing the things that make you feel good.
Yeah, you almost have to start taking care of yourself better and be more aware.
Yep.
Of how you treat yourself and how you take care of yourself.
Yep.
Music also is a great.
Oh yeah.
Just listening to music, I think, is a great release and relaxing.
I love listening to music. Every year I always find a song, a new song that came out that just really hits home with me about my life and multiple sclerosis and all that. Like this year, I love the Jelly Roll song.
I love Jelly Roll.
Yeah, I love Jelly Roll, man. That guy kills it. And,
oh gosh, I know his new album is so good.
I haven't heard the whole thing yet. I've heard bits and pieces of it. Yeah, I mean that guy's just.
No, there are some songs on there I listen to probably 100 times.
Yeah,
on repeat.
Yep, absolutely.
He's wonderful.
So, have you lost friendships because of this disease? Have you had friends that just said, you know what, I don't want to deal with this, and no, that's us.
No.
And that is such an important part of this disease too, is to have that outside circle.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of people, they just don't want to be around it, or they, I also have friends too that they understand that I have MS, but I just don't think that they really understand the disease. I don't know if you have people, somebody will say, hey, we're having a party, you want to come over? And, I say, I'm just not feeling it today. And they don't get that because they're normal. But, and I have friends that are like that, but I mean, it's not that I don't like them I like them any less, but it's just people just don't get what we go through and how hard it is to do things.
And that's something else, being around people and just hearing them complain about the most minute things,
Yeah, oh, my knee hurts today.
Yeah, I wish that was my biggest problem.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard for me to hear people just complain about things because you don't even understand how good you have it.
Yep. I always tell people, how a greeting that people will ask you, hey, how you doing today? And one of my repeat answers is, well, I got out of bed today, so it's a really good day. But and a lot of people don't even understand what I'm saying. They're just like, oh, okay, well, he's just being a smart ass. He got out of bed. Everybody gets out of bed. No, I'm being serious.
No.
I got out of bed today. It's a good day.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I know we're just hanging on to life as best as we can,
That's all we can do, and if people don't like it, then those people don't need to be in your life. Move on. You want to surround yourself with people that accept you for having a chronic disease, which was not your fault in getting it. And you just want to be treated normal and be treated fair.
Yeah.
Like other people, and I unfortunately I've witnessed myself, sometimes you just don't get treated like a normal person in society.
Definitely.
And it's very frustrating to me. Just simple things, just very simple things that, back when I was a kid, I always held doors open for people that were older than me. That's the way I was brought up. Now people that they just don't do that anymore. They can see a person walking in with a cane or a roller, and people just don't. I don't know. Just society is just different.
Yes.
And
you are not wrong. You are not wrong about that. Yeah, I know. We have gotten so frustrated. My daughters will get so frustrated, because they're pushing me in a wheelchair and someone won't even hold the door open.
Yeah.
They won't even look or notice or even consider it. All the time we get this, and stuff like that. They just don't look to help.
All right. Well, I want to ask you one more question before we start wrapping up. If you had one message to give to people that are just newly diagnosed with this disease, they're scared. They don't know what they're going to do. They might, they have a job that they're worrying about losing. If you had one message that you wanted to give to those people, what would that be?
To not be scared. They'll be just fine. Life will still be beautiful. They'll have great days. Wonderful things will happen to them. It'll be more of a struggle, but that's okay because it'll make them stronger and a better person.
I love it. I love it, Trina. I love watching your videos. You are very inspirational. I love, I feel like I made a new friend that I will probably have the rest of my life. That totally understands me, and I totally understand you. And I hope that we can get more people to understand what we go through on a daily.
Yeah.
And so that there's more of an understanding of multiple sclerosis and other chronic diseases, because there's other things that are out there that are just as debilitating that a lot of people just don't understand.
And it's not their fault that they don't understand,
No.
I mean, you can't understand what it feels like to live with MS unless you have it.
No.
I mean, you can't.
No, I agree with that. But it's, you got to be willing to try to learn, though, I think.
True. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because like when I married my wife, she had, we were from different marriages. She's got a daughter and I've had two kids, and her daughter was diagnosed autistic. So I had no knowledge of being around autism at all. When I met her, but I didn't run from it. I was willing to learn about it and accept it. And I just wish that other people had that same mentality when it comes to chronic disease.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, Trina, it has been great talking to you.
Thank you so much.
I really want to thank you for joining me. I definitely would love to have you on again if you would be willing to do that in a future episode. I think you have so much good knowledge that people can use if they're just starting out with this disease, or even if they've had it for 5 or 10 years, because I know that everybody's path down this road is different, and it does help just knowing how other people cope. Because something that I do, you might find useful, or something that you do, I might find useful. So it's just a good thing to get together and discuss our diseases.
Definitely. Anytime. Yeah. Anytime.
All right, Trina.
Anything we can do to help our community.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. I'm going to get going now. I want to thank everybody for joining in to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. And this is Brian. I am out.